Hey racers, and welcome to another live stream. Um, Today's topic for today's live stream, got to pop up here on screen, is how to cut down your training from 10 hours of cycling per week down to 3 hours of gym training per week, and actually start enjoying your training again. So I know for a lot of you, this video is probably not going to be relevant because you're probably not training 10 hours a week. This is for those of you that watch my videos that race full time or race at a high level and put a lot of time and a lot of effort into your training, your fitness work, and into your racing. So pretty much racing is your life. You don't go out on the weekends and go to parties and do all that sort of stuff. Racing is your thing. Okay, you live it, you breathe it, and you dream about it. So the main thing I want to talk about in this live stream is how to bring the enjoyment back to your racing. To your fitness work, okay, and to your racing as well. It will apply. Because one of the things that happens, I find, especially with the high level riders that I've worked with over the years, is that burnout is a very real thing. Okay, you get stuck in this hole or this vacuum of always doing stuff and always working and always being on the go and always doing things. That sometimes the enjoyment of the whole process disappears. Like to everyone on the outside, it seems like you're living the dream and you're doing everything. Everything's happening for you. Okay, you should be happy, you should be enjoying the whole thing, but for you on the inside, you're not actually enjoying it, and the enjoyment that you had when you first started is starting to disappear. Okay, it's turning more into a chore and something you have to do because you're very goal orientated and focused, so you don't give up, but at the same time, you're not exactly enjoying the process of getting there either. So this is aimed for you guys. So I know this won't be helpful for a lot of you. This is for the small minority of you guys that this video is going to be made for. I've got a shit ton of notes here of things that I want to cover because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So first of all, what's the benefits of dropping your training down from 10 hours of cycling per week down to doing 3 hours of training? Okay, this is for those of you that specifically do a lot of cycling and a lot of cardio each week. Okay, we're looking at 10 hours plus each week. Okay, a shit ton of cardio time. The benefit of cutting down to 3 hours of gym work is, number one, preventing burnout. Okay, so the more you can enjoy your training and enjoy the process, the happier you are. Okay, and the happier you are and the more you're enjoying your training, the more you're going to enjoy your riding as well. Okay, and anytime you're happier and you're enjoying the process, you're always going to perform better than being run down and being burnt out. That I kind of covered 2 points at once, which is enjoying training in the process. It's bringing the enjoyment back to your riding and back to your racing and back to your training. It's wanting to get up in the morning and looking forward to tackling your training, looking forward to getting out on the bike, rather than getting up and going, oh shit, like having to really drag yourself through. Okay, it's wanting to go and do those things again, rather than feeling like you have to do those things. And then number three, I guess, is one of the most important parts is, if you can cut your training down from 10 hours of cycling per week to 3 hours of gym work per week and get better results from doing that, it frees up a whole shit ton of time for you. Okay, because it's not just the 10 hours of cycling, it's the preparation and the organization before and after. So you're probably looking at more than 10 hours, right? So if you can cut your training down from 10 hours per week down to 3 hours and get better results out on the bike, that's another 7 hours you've just cleared out for yourself. That's for an average person's working day. You've just cleared out a whole average person's working day for yourself. You can go and spend time at the beach, spend time with your partner, go and work on technique stuff on the bike, go and have another day of riding, or have a free day and have a rest day. Actually do things that don't involve riding, don't involve training, things that you just enjoy. Go fishing, drive your remote control car, go for a walk and have a coffee, whatever it is for you. Okay, bringing those things back into your life that you didn't have time for before, creating that time for you to do things that you enjoy that might not necessarily involve fitness and riding, since it's already consuming a large part of your life. First of all, I wanted to touch on what causes riders to spend so much time cycling and spend so much time training. Okay, when we're looking at the 10-hour plus mark, what would cause someone to do that level of training? And what I find is it comes into a few different mindsets. First of all, there's the guilt of not training. Okay, when racing is your life and that is the thing that you're working towards. Okay, and there's nothing else that you really do in life apart from this one thing, which is racing. Often there's this guilt of taking time off, okay, or guilt of not doing as much as you possibly can to work towards that goal. Okay, especially if you're very goal orientated and you've got something that you're working towards, or that you're that's important for you. There's this underlying feeling of guilt where it's like, if you're not training, if you're not doing things to work towards that goal, you feel like you're letting yourself down, you're letting other people down, you feel like you're not actually giving it 100%. Okay, so we have this mindset of you always have to be doing something to move towards that goal. Otherwise, you're failing, you're not giving it 100%. So that's one of the mindsets. The second mindset is you might not know any better in terms of training strategy. Okay, like you see other riders in races, you see all the top level guys posting a whole heap of cycling videos. All the other guys that you're racing against are doing a whole heap of cycling as well. And you don't know any other way. You see them cycling and pounding the pavement all the time. They're posting on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and wherever else that they're always cycling and always on the bike, and how many distances they've done, and they're posting snapshots of their Strava times and all the rest of it, and bragging about how long they've cycled for. You feel like you have to be doing that as well. You feel like for you to be successful and you to be at the top, everyone else is cycling and doing all of these hours on the bike every week, so you need to be doing that same thing as well. And you just don't know another way of doing it. You don't have another strategy for building fitness. The third mindset that also comes from doing this high level of cycling all of the time is you feel that flogging yourself is the price you have to pay for success. Okay, you feel that you always have to feel flogged, you always have to feel run down, you always have to be burning the candle at both ends for you to be able to be successful. You feel you have to sacrifice your life to be able to get towards this thing that you're aiming for. Okay, particular race result, particular race event, whatever it is for you. Factory ride, getting a better ride, keeping your ride for next year. Okay, it's this mindset of you always have to be flogging yourself all the time and always feel beat up to know that you've given it 100% to get towards your goal. So, and the reason I keep looking down is because I've got notes here that I'm checking in on to make sure I cover what I want to cover. So, first of all, why is 10 hours of cycling every week terrible? Okay, why is that terrible for racers to be able to spend that much time doing that much cardio on a week-to-week basis to try and improve their riding? And there's a few reasons. First of all, it only trains one energy system. So your body's made up or has two primary energy systems: the anaerobic energy system and the aerobic energy system. Okay, anaerobic energy system is high intensity, okay, short bursts of high intensity activity. The aerobic energy system is lower intensity for longer periods of time. Now, when you go out and do long cycles, if you're doing 40, 50, 60, 70, 100, 200 Ks, however many Ks you're doing a week, when you're doing this much cycling, you're primarily focusing on the aerobic energy system. Now, when you're out riding, you use two energy systems. You use the anaerobic energy system and the aerobic energy system. So if you're just doing a whole heap of long distance cycling, all you're doing is training the aerobic system, and you're missing out on a large part of fitness, okay, by doing that. That's the first thing. The second thing that happens is it reduces muscle mass and muscle strength. So if you look at a cyclist, you look at the Tour de France riders, they have very little muscle mass on them, okay, which is great for their sport because they're doing such long distances of cycling. They don't want to be heavy, and they don't want to have muscle mass, and they don't need strength, okay? They need to be very, very good at keeping a light body weight to keep the bike light, so they've got less to be able to pedal with, okay, less weight to be able to move for the extreme distances that they do. For you as a racer is very different, okay? The major difference being between a motocross racer or an enduro racer and a cyclist is the weight of the bike. A cycling bike weighs about 5 kilos, okay? I think it's 5.9 kilos or something is the legal weight that they have to have, I think, if I remember correctly. A motocross bike is about 100 kilos, okay? So if you're going out and doing a whole heap of long distance cycling, what you're actually doing is reducing your muscle mass, but reducing your strength as well, okay? So you might be lighter, your body weight might be down, but your strength and your muscle mass reduces as well. Now, when you've got a 100 kilo bike that you're trying to throw around or wrestle around out on the bike for a half an hour moto, for motocross, for a 3 or 4 hour enduro, you need to be strong, okay? So if we want to make that 100 kilo bike feel a lot lighter, we need to elevate your level of strength. And so the stronger we can get you, okay, the stronger your overall strength, the lighter that 100 kilo bike is going to feel. The lighter that 100 kilo bike is going to feel, the less energy you use and the less you fatigue on the bike. The less energy and less you fatigue on the bike, the longer you can ride for at a high intensity, okay? By doing a whole heap of long distance cycling, you're reducing muscle mass and reducing your strength. Okay, so in the strength department of riding, you're making it harder for yourself to ride the bike rather than being able to make it easier, okay, in comparison to doing strength work. The third thing, you increase your risk of injury, okay? If you've raced motocross and you're riding at a high level, chances are you've had an injury, okay, or broken bones at some stage of your riding or of your racing. Muscle mass and muscle strength are what protects your bones and what protects your joints, okay? Muscles are the things that allow your bones to be able to move, okay, and joints to be able to move. Now, when we increase muscle mass or we increase strength, okay, either of those, we do two things. Number one, when we've got a bit of muscle there, it provides a protective layer for your bones, okay? So your bones now have this outer shell or protective layer that are going to stop or reduce the risk of you having injuries. So if you come off and you race and you get injured every time you are out riding or out racing, or that's something you're always concerned about, the more you cycle, the more you reduce your muscle mass. The more you reduce your muscle mass, okay, the higher risk you're going to be at of getting hurt or having broken bones when you come off, because there's no protective layer there for you, okay? Instead of having muscle around the outside of your bones, if we reduce that right down, we've got bone hitting the floor rather than muscle hitting the floor, okay? Rather than having a bruise from hitting the floor or having a corked arm or corked leg from hitting the floor, you're going to have broken bones from hitting the floor. The other thing that increasing your strength does is give support to your joints, shoulders, elbows, wrists, knees, hips, okay? If your foot gets stuck in a rut, we got little things like that. Your ankle gets caught, okay, in a rut or under the foot peg. The more strength you have, the stronger your joints are and the more stable they are. What that means is they can take more load and they can take more impacts than what they normally would, okay? If we're doing a whole heap of cycling, your joints are having less and less support. And again, if you're a cyclist, you probably don't need much joint support, okay? Because you're not planning on coming off the bike and you're not getting your leg caught in a rut or under the foot peg or getting caught in weird positions, because cycling, you're spending most of the time on the bike. Very rarely are you going to crash on a cycling bike, okay? For motocross, it's not like that, okay? You've got a 100 kilo bike with a whole heap of power, okay, pulling you around the track. So we need to make sure that your joints have as much support and as strength as possible, because what that means is it reduces your risk of injury, okay? Anytime we can reduce your risk of injury, we increase your consistency throughout the year. Consistency with racing, consistency with results, consistency with fitness, consistency with training, consistency with testing, okay? Rather than spending half the year out with niggles and injuries throughout the year and not being able to do the things that are allowing you to get better. Next page of notes, because that's one page done. Now I want to talk about why cycling works to a degree, okay? So if I take someone, a rider that's a blank canvas, okay, so let's say they've done no training, and they're pretty much coming off the couch, okay? Maybe just a base level of general natural fitness, but they haven't done any specific gym work. They just go and ride the bike, okay? If I take that person, I take that rider, and I get them to go and do a whole heap of cycling, they'll get two major benefits from cycling. Number one, they will build leg strength, okay? They will get stronger. And the reason they get stronger is because now they're training with some sort of resistance from the bike. Before they were doing no resistance training because they weren't doing anything. Now they're getting on the cycling bike, they're building leg strength, okay? So their legs actually do get stronger from cycling. The other thing that happens is they also build their aerobic system, okay? Their aerobic energy system. So because they're doing these long distances of cycling. So their aerobic energy system is getting much better and their legs are also stronger, okay? It does both of those things. They're the main benefits that come from cycling. Those of you that are doing a whole heap of cycling, the benefits you're getting from cycling are those two things. Your aerobic long distance energy system is getting better and your legs are getting stronger, okay? So if we want to look at, okay, we're doing 10 hours of cycling per week and I want to drop that down to 3 hours, okay, or 3 hours of some sort of training each week and get the same results or better results than the 10 hours, how do I do that? We need to find a form of training that hits those two things in much less time and it gets those results a lot quicker. How do we get our legs stronger a lot quicker? And how do we build our aerobic system a lot quicker without having to do 10 hours of cycling? How do we do that? Okay, how do we build up our endurance to that level? First of all, how do we build leg strength? Instead of doing a whole heap of cycling and using a minimal amount of resistance when we're out pedaling, okay, or going up a hill, we use weight training, okay? Weight training is what will allow you to build leg strength and to be able to get stronger, okay? Way quicker than what you could use on a cycling bike. Because on the cycling bike, you only have the 5 or 10 kilos of the cycling bike and the resistance of the pedals, okay? That's all you've got to build strength. When you're weight training, there's infinite possibilities for you developing your strength. It doesn't get capped out by how hard the pedals are or the steepness of the hill or how much your cycling bike weighs. Weight training, we can keep going way past that, okay? So the riding your cycling bike and ticking the pedals over might be the equivalent of 10 kilos going through your legs for each pedal, okay? And moving this 10 kilos, 10 kilos, 10 kilos resistance, right? When you transfer over to weight training, we're not limited to the 10 kilo resistance that we've got from your pedals. We can do squats and use a bar and put weights on and go 20 kilos, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, right? We can keep cranking those weights up and keep getting you stronger. So instead of having to just try and do a whole heap more cycling and more pedals and like longer kilometers and more hours, we don't have to do that. Because what we can do now, what was taking you 10 hours to get your strength up before in your legs, now we can do that in the space of 20 minutes to half an hour, 3 times a week, because now we can go and do squats with 100 kilos at a time, okay? Instead of 10 kilos at a time like you're doing on the cycling bike. So we can get your legs and your body a lot stronger in a fraction of the time by using weight training, because we can keep stacking weights on top and we can keep getting you stronger. We can't do that on the cycling bike, okay? You are getting a benefit of leg strength by cycling, but we can put that on steroids times 10 by using weight training, okay? Get you stronger 10 times quicker in 1/10 of the time, okay, that it takes you on the cycling bike, and get you better results. We can get you a lot stronger as well in that time. So that's going to cover the leg strength, okay? We all know. First of all, guys, if you're enjoying this, please give me a like on the Facebook video to let me know that it's hitting the spot and you're finding it helpful. That's the first thing. So now we know how to replicate one of the benefits that we're getting from cycling in much less time, which is with the weight training. The second thing we need to do is the aerobic system. Okay, how do you train your aerobic system without doing hours and hours and hours of cycling? Okay, first things first. When you go out and ride on the bike and you're doing your practice motos, okay, which you should be for racing, that is your aerobic system work. Okay, you're doing 20-minute or half-hour motos at the track. That's training your aerobic system. You don't need to be training your aerobic system 100 times a week for it to be really, really good. Okay, you going out and doing your practice motos is more than enough. Okay, if you're going riding 3 or 4 times a week, going out and doing your practice motors is more than enough for you to build your aerobic system. What we need to work on in the gym during the week is not trying to do more of your aerobic system, which you're already training when you go and ride. What we need to work on is training your anaerobic system. So your anaerobic system is what's used for short bursts of high intensity activity. If we look at your riding, let's say you're a motocross racer, you're racing in the Prime X series, you're doing half-hour motos, okay? In those half-hour motos, you're not training for half an hour. Part of your training is for half an hour, but that's not the only focus. If we dive in, okay, we use a magnifying glass and we have a look at what's happening with those half-hour motos, it's not half an hour. It's short bursts of high intensity activity. So if you take a track like on the weekend at 130, some parts of that track are really, really fucking rough, right? You're up on the pegs, you're standing up on the pegs, you've got to get back off the back of the bike. Your legs are taking a hammering, your whole body's taking a hammering, right? But then once you get past that rough section, then there's a little bit where you get a break. You might go through the air over a jump. You've got a smooth line that misses a couple of bumps where you can sit down for a bit. It might be maybe there's a nice berm that you've found or a new line that's come up through the track that's a bit smoother where you can sit down for a little bit and have a rest, right? So what's happening is on each lap, corner to corner, jump to jump, the intensity is going like this, okay? The intensity is going up, down, up, down, up, down. You've got parts that take 100% effort, less effort, 100% effort, less effort, 100% effort, less effort. So if you're going cycling and doing 10 hours of cycling every week, you're completely missing that element of training. One of the big components of your racing, you are completely missing because you're focusing so much on the aerobic system and the distance of the race, you've forgotten about all of those little high intensity patches that are happening every single lap for that race as well. So you miss out on training the anaerobic energy system. So instead of going cycling and doing 10 hours of cycling, we use what we call interval training. Interval training is short, sharp bursts of high intensity activity. And that's going to allow us to train your anaerobic system. So the way that we do that, instead of doing 10 hours of cycling per week, for example, you could do, let's say 20 minutes. We do a minute on, flat out, as hard as you can go on the exercise bike, for example, 1 minute complete rest. 1 minute flat out as hard as you can go, 1 minute complete rest. And you do that for 20 rounds, okay, which will take you 20 minutes, okay? Now, the whole goal here is not about cycling for 20 minutes. It's about going hard for those 1 minute intervals, okay? It's about working at super high intensity, 100% effort, working your body to the absolute limit in those 1 minutes. Exactly like what happens on the track when you go through a rough section or the bike skips out and you're trying to pull it back into line, okay? That's what we're replicating, the intensity of racing, not the duration. The duration work of the race you do when you go out and ride on the bike, okay? If you want to improve your fitness for racing, then we need to be able to do that through the anaerobic energy system as well as the aerobic energy system. So we actually get better results with our training by doing a lot less work. Instead of you doing 10 hours of cycling every week, you can do 3 or 4 workouts a week with those 15 to 20 minute intervals. You're going to get a shit ton better results from doing that because we're working on the intensity and we're working both. We've got a system for working both energy systems now, okay? Not just working one energy system. So the 2 benefits of cycling that you're getting, okay, which are leg strength and getting stronger and building the aerobic energy system, I've just shown you how you can do in 3 1-hour blocks of training every week, okay? You do 3 half-hour sessions. First half an hour of your session should be made up of your strength work, using weights, which we just talked about, which is going to get you a lot stronger than trying to move 10 kilos of pedal resistance for 10 hours a week, okay? So we can get rid of the 10 hours and we cut that down to 3 half-hour blocks. The other half hour of those 3 sessions is made up of your anaerobic work, okay? So your interval training. That is what is going to get you fit in 3 hours of racing instead of doing 10 hours of cycling every week. Not only are you going to save 7 hours a week of training time, you're also going to get better results from doing this because it's actually targeted and very specific to what you're working towards when you're out on the bike, okay? We're not just using a whole heap of cycling to make up for not knowing what we should be doing. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. If we're on the same page, any of you new guys that have joined us, give me a like on the video to let me know that everything I'm going through is making sense so far. Common questions that I get from this. So I knew after going through all of this stuff that people, like, it's a pretty big claim to make, right? Especially if you're a factory rider or a racer and you spend a lot of time riding, a lot of time racing, you've been doing this shit for years, you're seeing that everyone else is cycling their asses into the ground, you're going to go, okay, Andrew, well, that all makes sense, but I've got a couple of questions, a couple of things that are going to come up. And so I've tried to anticipate them as best I can. If you have any that I've missed, then feel free to post them up in the comments and I'll answer them for you. And I'll just check here on Facebook to make sure they're coming through. First question is going to be, okay, well, yeah, the weight training thing makes sense and I get that, but won't I get big from weights? Won't I get big from lifting weights all the time? That's why I do the cycling, to keep my body weight light and build strength. Weights are going to make me big. Weights will not make you big if you do the right weight training, okay? If you use isolation exercise and you train like a bodybuilder, you have an arm day and a leg day, and you're doing these ones, okay, and these ones, and isolating each area of your body, yes, you will get big because that type of training is designed to get you big. If you use what's called multi-joint movements, you won't get big because we're using all the muscles in your body together as one system. We're making the muscle fibers in your body, instead of breaking them down and tearing them like we do with isolation work and bodybuilding work, where the muscle fibers tear and repair themselves and come back bigger, what we're doing is we're making those muscle fibers more efficient at their job, okay? That's our goal. We don't want the extra size. I get that. I don't want you to have the extra size either. I understand that. But you can get strong without putting on size if you do the right exercises. Multi-joint strength training exercises. Back squats, deadlifts, bent over rows, overhead presses. They're some of the exercises that are going to use your whole body together as one system so you can get strong and not get big, okay? What we want are the strength benefits. We don't want the size benefits. I understand that, but you have to understand getting big and getting strong, they don't come together, okay? They can come separately if you want them to. You just have to know what you're doing to make sure you're doing the right exercises. Second question I get is, what about my endurance? Well, if I'm going to give up all of these hours and hours and hours of cycling, how am I going to, I'll just make sure there's no questions coming through, okay? I've got a question there which I'll get to in a minute. Okay, if I'm doing these hours and hours and hours of cycling, how am I going to build up my endurance? Okay, great question. Weight training actually builds endurance, okay? No one seems to understand this for some reason. Maybe it hasn't been explained in motorsport industry. It wasn't explained to me when I was racing for 14 seasons of racing, okay? When you get stronger, it makes lighter weights feel lighter. Okay, so for example, you can play along, you can post up in the comments, or you can play along at home with yourself. Let's say that the most you can lift is 50 kilos. Okay, the most you can lift is 50 kilos. So let's say a deadlift, the most you can do is 50 kilos. Let's say I gave you an empty bar. Okay, an empty bar is 20 kilos. How many reps do you think you could do with that 20 kilo bar? If the absolute most that you can lift is 50 kilos, how many reps can you do with that 20 kilos? Post up a number for me in the comments, okay? Whatever that number is. Let's see if we can get some examples from a few of you, right? How many reps could you do with 20 kilos? If the most you can lift is 50 kilos, how many reps could you do with just a 20 kilo bar? Post that up in the comments, okay? Might be, say, 10 reps, for example, or whatever you guys think. Now, let's say that you put in the work over the coming months, you did everything that I said, and we doubled your strength. 50 kilos was easy weight for you now. Now you can lift 100 kilos. The most weight you can lift is 100 kilos. Let's say I gave you that 20 kilo bar again. What would happen? How many reps do you reckon you'd be able to get now with that 20 kilo bar? More than 10? Probably. Probably going to be looking at about 20 reps, okay? Why are you able to lift 20 reps now when you could only lift 10 reps of that same 20 kilo bar before? Because your overall strength has increased, okay? Because you got your strength from 50 kilos to 100 kilos, that 20 kilo weight now, that empty bar now feels a shit ton lighter. It takes you less effort and less energy to move that 20 kilo bar, so you can do way more reps with it. Your endurance just improved, right? Same thing happens with the bike. If we can double your strength over the coming months, okay, using the strength training that I just talked about and getting rid of the cycling, what that allows us to do is to make your 100 kilo bike feel a lot lighter. If your bike feels half as light to you now when you go and ride, you use less energy, okay? Less energy, less fatigue. Less energy and less fatigue means you've got more energy to be able to use and more endurance to be able to use over a longer period of time, okay? So we've improved your endurance on the bike without having to do 10 hours of cycling. We can do 20 minutes of training, okay, or half an hour of strength work 3 times a week to get a way better result than what you could do from cycling your ass into the ground. The third question that comes after that is, how do we get started? So if you would like some help and you are a rider that's doing 10 hours plus of cycling per week and you want to cut down to 3 hours per week and get your life back and stop being burnt out and actually enjoy your training, then go to this application form here and apply to work with me. It's going to ask you some details on what you're working towards with your riding, what challenges you've had with doing that, okay, and where you're at the moment. So that's just come up in the comments there for you guys. You can hit the link, that'll take you to a form, fill out the form, put your details in, make sure you put details in, okay? If you just put 1 or 2 word answers in there for you, I'm not even going to bother contacting you because you don't even give a shit to spend a few minutes to give me some decent answers so I can help you, right? If you want some help, fill out that form, make sure you put in the details in there that I need, and then we'll go from there. Questions that I've got here, let's see. Will, is shorter 1 hour with a good amount of elevation, more intense mountain biking, a better biking solution than road bike if you can't get on the moto throughout weekdays? Obviously, in addition to weight training. I wouldn't even add that in, Will. I would, and there's a difference here, so let me be clear about this. If you enjoy cycling or you enjoy mountain biking, that's great. Go and cycle, go and mountain bike. But if you're just cycling or just mountain biking to try and improve your riding, then it's going to have little to no crossover to your riding, okay? You're better off focusing on, so for us, Will, the exact training that we've got mapped out. It's doing the interval work and doing the strength training work. The reason I don't encourage the longer distance stuff with training is longer distance training reduces muscle mass, okay? So if we're trying to build strength and get you stronger, and we're adding in, so let's say you did 10 hours of cycling and then you just added in strength work, they work against each other, right? You've got your cycling on one side, which reduces muscle mass and reduces strength, and then we've got our strength training here, which is trying to get us stronger, all right? We've got one that's trying to reduce muscle mass and one that's trying to go this way, and so they fight against each other like this. So when riders combine those two together, they don't see very good progress with either of them because they work against each other, okay? They're complete opposites. The benefit of the interval training that we use is interval training works together with strength work. Interval training will not affect your strength building. It allows you to build your anaerobic energy system as well as build your strength at the same time. And that's how you can get much, much, much better results with your training in 3 hours per week than 10 hours per week, because now we have training working together, okay, rather than having separate forms of training working against each other. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully that helps you, Will. Okay, that's why we want to steer clear of the longer distance stuff, and we just want to save that for when you get on the bike, and we want to focus on the interval work during the week, because they're all going to work together. Again, the strength work will increase your endurance. Okay, like the example I just gave, the strength work is your endurance work. Okay, we're not cycling, we're not triathletes, we're not swimmers, we're not runners. We're motocross, or for your case, we're enduro racers. So that's the goal. That's what we want to focus on. So I know this was a lengthy live stream, and I need to jump off because I've got a heap of coaching calls to make today. Today's the day, or today and yesterday is the day I catch up with all of our races. So that's why I did today's live stream a little bit earlier. As I said, any of you guys are interested in working with me and you need help and you're sick of burning yourself out and you're losing the enjoyment from your racing, fill out the application form that I put in the comments below. Click on the link, fill it out, make sure you give me great detail, and then we can go from there. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and look forward to putting more together for you in the coming days. See ya.